Hello, welcome back to Northern Lights. Today I'm going to do just carrying it along like Rob at the movie vault and Nathan Jones. They both did videos on their favorite movies for every year they've been alive. So I'm going to do mine now to continue it on. Hopefully others will do the same thing. And I'm a little bit older than them, so mine's going to be in a two-parter because of the age that I am. I don't want these to be long videos, so I'm going to try and get them as short as possible. I'm not going to go into explanations because a lot of people have already seen these movies and some of you didn't. Now, mine are mostly movies, combination of Blu-rays and DVDs as I slowly upgrade to Blu-ray for some of them. And there'll be the odd TV show or TV movie thrown in there too, because there's just something during that year that I really didn't like or I don't have. So, and we start off, we're going to start with the year 1966. And I'm going with John Wayne's Eldorado with Robert Mitchum. I enjoy most of the John Wayne westerns from the 60s into the early 70s there. He's playing John Wayne through them all. It's almost basically the same character. This is a fun movie. James Caan is in it too. Plays a character in Mississippi. I think it's one of his first roles. John Wayne, Robert Mitchum. Mitchum plays the town sheriff. Becomes a drunk. There's a landowner who wants a piece of land, and he hires John Wayne to help him get rid of the landowners. Mitchum straightens him out as to what's going on and all that. So John Wayne changes his mind and then comes back later on. Mitchum's drunk and all that to help him out to handle the landowner there. It was comedy. There's a nice scene where Mitchum is drunk. John Wayne smacks him with I think it's the piss can. Anyway, excellent movie. When I seen this, it's excellent movie. Next up is 1967, The Dirty Dozen. I didn't see this until when the sequel came out on television. And then I went back and found this and watched it. I think I might have it still on VHS, if I'm not mistaken. But I have to look through some boxes. Lee Marvin, Charles Bronson, Jim Brown, George Kennedy, Robert Vine, Telly Savalas, Clint Walker. This is an all-star cast. This is an excellent movie. And it is Lee Marvin. He is the character. World War II. A bunch of guys that are in prison getting ready to be executed. And he takes them and turns them into a squad. Next up is 1968. And of course, it would be Planet of the Apes, the original with Charlton Heston. Another excellent movie. 2001 Space Odyssey came out the same year. I didn't see that till way later on too. And didn't really get into it until, not the first viewing, until later on. That's when I got, and that is an awesome movie. But my favorite is the original Planet of the Apes. Charlton Heston, Roddy McDowall, Kim Hunter. Now 1969 would be The Wild Bunch. Sam Peckinpah, William Holden, Ernest Borgnine, Robert Rhine, Ben Johnson. The fight scene, the shootout at the end is just spectacular. My favorite's actually the when they're robbing the bank at the beginning of the movie. I think it's just pure magic right there. From that Wild Bunch, 1969. Next, 1970. My favorite is actually the original Airport movie. This is the multi-pack, the collection of all the Airport movies. Now, Patton was out that year, so was MASH. But my favorite was the original Airport with Burt Lancaster, Dean Martin, Jacqueline Bisset, George Kennedy, and I believe he won a supporting best actor, supporting in a role for Oscar for that, for the original Airport. Don't quote me, but I think he did. Anyway, it's a fun movie. It just uh, I love the time. Just gives you that 60s, late 60s feel. Um, a runner up, another one to add to that is actually Scrooge. Since we're at Christmas time, this is my favorite Christmas movie of all time. The musical, Albert Finney. Some of the songs work. Majority of the songs work. There's a couple that are duds and all that, but this is my favorite. This used to play on every Sunday, the Sunday before Christmas. This played in the afternoon, Sunday afternoons, all the time. Um, the opening, the credit music is excellent, and the end music piece is just awesome, spectacular. And that's the second version. There's a same song is halfway through the movie. But anyway, it's my favorite Christmas movie of all time. And 1970s with the Airport. 1971 is Omega Man with Charlton Heston. Just I'm into the post-apocalyptic movies and television shows. That's what I like. I'm not a horror person per se. I have a few horror movies, but post-apocalyptic is what I like. Not more to be said about it. I seen the original with Vincent Price, I Am Legend on YouTube is on, and actually that was a really good movie too. This runs close to that. The way there's a couple of scenes that actually almost look the same. All right, so that's 1971. 1972 would be The Godfather, the first one, with Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, James Caan's in that. This is the one that started it. I got this package here. It's still wrapped. Seen this collection. Cinema Dave had it, and he's got the white box. I can't remember how that one goes, but yeah, I paid $5 for this. Someone had it. Just grab that. Anyway, so 1972, the first one, The Godfather, excellent family story of the mafia. Not much more to be said on that one either. Then we're going to 1973. American Graffiti. It says one of the best soundtracks. I kind of was born in the wrong era. I love 50s and 60s music. Late 50s, early 60s, the beginnings of rock and roll. Made by George Lucas. If I recall, I think it was Francis Ford Coppola challenged him to make a movie that people want to see. Since the studio didn't get his THX movie. Just a great soundtrack. I believe George called this, it was a documentary on the mating rituals of the American teenager back in, I think that's what he said about this. Anyway. So that was 1973. 1974 is going to be The Godfather Part 2. Shows the early life when Vito Corleone came to New York. Robert De Niro plays Vito. Marlon Brando did in the original movie. And Michael, the Corleone family is in Las Vegas doing their stuff, dealing with some of the Cuban stuff before the revolution starts. All right, so 1974, Godfather Part 2. 1975, Cinema Dave will like this, is Jaws. The first time I seen Jaws, I believe, was mid to late 80s. It was playing at one of the theaters here, and it just was a special, I think it was a reissue or something like that. And it was awesome. I actually went by myself to see it, and the scene that got me the most is when the boat, when Richard Dreyfuss goes down and grabs the tooth of the from the boat, that's the scene that still to this day, it's unexpected when I see it. All right, so Jaws, 1975. In 1976, this is the first movie I seen in theaters. And it was the remake of King Kong on the Trade Center. Jeff Bridges, Jessica Lange. This is the first movie I seen in the theater. My favorite scene is when he's breaking into the village where it's got the big wall on it, and when he comes through the door, it's just an awesome scene. Him coming when he finally breaks the big gate and comes through there. And I'll admit, I cried when they were shooting at him on top of the trade centers, and when he falls, and the scenes where his heart is beating, his heart beats like twice, boom boom, boom boom, a couple of times, and it's just one heartbeat, and then that's the end of it. Anyway, that's the first movie I seen in theaters. So now we're moving on to 1977, and this is the second movie I seen in the theater, and it was my first introduction to James Bond, Roger Moore. And the first movie I seen was The Spy Who Loved Me, of his. Second movie I seen in the theater, I did see Star Wars that year too. Wasn't towards it until the end of the year. Anyway, my first introduction to James Bond was Roger Moore in The Spy Who Loved Me. This was just still one of the best James Bond movies of all time. And Roger Moore, to me, is the best James Bond. Daniel Craig is the best James Bond now, but if it wasn't for Roger Moore, the James Bond franchise would have died. Sean Connery was the first, and for a generation, he is their Bond, and he set the standard for it. There's no question about that. My favorite of his is actually Thunderball, and then Diamonds Are Forever. But I'll get it. That's another video later on about Bond. But without Roger Moore, the James Bond franchise would have died, and he carried it on. And the second movie I seen in the theater was Spy Who Loved Me. It was just awesome. It was so big, the whole ship with the subs in it, and that big fight scene at the end. And Jaws, one of the best villains. So, anyway, so that's that. Also in 77, I'm going to mention, and I remember seeing it when it came on television, but I was too young, is Roots. Everyone, to me, this needs to be shown every 5 years on television. And I can't remember if it's coming up to the 50th or whatever, 45th. I can't remember now. Anyway, Roots, the original Roots miniseries is just awesome. Some of the best acting, writing, the story, it's epic. And I from a generation of the miniseries, and I love miniseries, and Roots is the best one of them all. And everybody should watch this once. There was a remake just a year or two ago. Nowhere near what this one is. This is the collection with the Next Generation 2, which I haven't seen since it aired. So I can't even comment on it. But remember, it's not as good as the first one. But if anybody, you ever get a chance to watch this, watch it. I watch this about every, I'll say 4 to 5 years myself anyway, rewatch it all the time. But I believe it should be, everybody should see this. And it should be shown on TV again in its entirety. So that's 77. Next up is 78. And Wild Geese. Richard Burton, Roger Moore, Richard Harris. It's just old militia guys going trying to save a South African president, I think. I don't think it's a prince, but I think it's a president. It's just excellent movie. I enjoy it all the way around. And yeah, Roger Moore. The commentary is actually pretty good. Roger Moore's in the Roger Moore commentary is excellent in this. So that was 78. Now we're on to 1979. And my favorite, back to James Bond, is actually Moonraker. My second. But by then, I've already seen Live and Let Die and Goldfinger on television. But my next favorite Bond is actually Moonraker. Yes, the little space scene in the end is a little, but the rest of the movie is excellent. I saw this movie 7 times when it was in the theater here. It's just awesome. I can't say anything more about it. Like I said, Roger Moore, to me, is the best Bond. I know a lot of people will disagree with that, but like I said, he was my first introduction to Bond. And Moonraker, seen 7 times in the theater when it was out. I mean, that year, 79, Apocalypse Now was out. Another, Star Trek, the motion picture. But Moonraker is the one that stands out for me. In 1980 is the final countdown. Kirk Douglas, Martin Sheen, James Frantino. The USS Nimitz, it's thrown back in time to just before the attack on Pearl Harbor. This was just, just in awe of the ship. Love the Nimitz. Excellent movie. And they decide, what should they do? Should they stop the attack or let the attack happen? There's a lot of time travel movie, your typical. Anyway, another honorable mention is actually Flash Gordon. Just remember, I haven't seen this in a couple of years, and I see it's coming on to 4K and Blu-ray. I just remember the colors. It was just all full of colors and all that. I enjoyed it. It was fun in the theater. A fun movie to sit and watch. Excellent. But anyway, first choice, the final countdown. Up next is 1981, and of course it would be Raiders of the Lost Ark. Not much more to be said about that movie that hasn't already been said. See now, it was originally called Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think now they call it Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Just the chase scene in this movie is awesome, and the fight scene at the plane is one of my favorite all times. Actually, all his movies, his individual fight scenes are still the best. Then we're up 1982. There were a couple of good movies out then. Blade Runner was one of them, but my choice is Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan. This is the best of the Star Trek movies. Based on, you call it the sequel to Space Seed from the original series. I mean, there's not much more that can be said about this that hasn't already been said, but it is one of the best. In 1982. In 1983, I'm going to a television movie, and I believe it played in theaters in Europe, and that's The Day After. I just remember it was on a Sunday, and everybody watched it, and we talked about it in school and all that. I'd like to see, because back at the time there was a British version of this called Threads, which is a little more darker and probably a little more truer. And then what else was on? There was the Special Bulletin was the other TV movie that came on too. But my favorite is actually The Day After. And it doesn't matter who started it or whatever. It's all about the people. And this was done by Nicholas Meyer, the man who did Wrath of Khan the year before. Anyway. Then next we're on to 1984. And my favorite also has an awesome soundtrack. Is Streets of Fire. Michael Pare, Diane Lane, I think one of her first roles, and William Dafoe too. They kidnap William Dafoe's gang, kidnaps Diane Lane. Her ex-boyfriend comes back to get her out. Just the soundtrack is awesome. The opening song, I know she doesn't sing it, and the end song is just, the action is great. The fight with the like little tiny sledgehammers or whatever at the end is wicked. This is an excellent movie all around. The soundtrack is awesome. This is one of my go-to movies. Rainy day, like today, or comfort movie. My go-to movie. I'm just sitting around. I don't feel like watching anything. I just want to sit back, enjoy some music, and watch a good, half-decent show. So it was 1984, 1985. I'm going back to a Western. Silverado. Kevin Kline, Scott Glenn, John Gleason's in. Kevin Costner, one of his first early roles too. Danny Glover. This is, on the big screen, this is awesome. And my favorite shootout is the standoff at the end with Brian Dennehy and Kevin Kline. It's just an awesome standoff. It's just what they say before the guns are drawn. 1985, Silverado. 1986 is Big Trouble in Little China. I remember seeing this in the theater. This was awesome. I laughed. It was fun. His character was great. It would have been nice to see a sequel later on. But what draws me to this movie the most is actually the commentary with John Carpenter, Kurt Russell, because they're sitting there, they're enjoying themselves. This is when I really started paying attention to special features, because I'm pretty sure they crack a couple of beers in the beginning and sit back, and they're like, Kurt Russell has a great sense of humor. So does John Carpenter, but it's listening to them talk for this movie. And I wish more people do commentaries like the way they do it. And this is one of the best commentaries of any movie that I've had so far. Big Trouble in Little China, 1986. 1987. I'm going with Full Metal Jacket. It's just the first, was it 40? Yeah, I think it's almost 40 minutes of the in the boot camp at the beginning. Just Sergeant Hartland. Just awesome. If you can almost combine this with Platoon, along with Apocalypse Now, kind of mold them together, it'd be a long movie, but you get the picture of Vietnam. And Hamburger Hill, another great movie, came out. It came out this year too, 87. RoboCop 2, but I went with Full Metal Jacket. It was just awesome. The experience of sitting there and in the boot camp, it was just wicked. 1988. There's only one really movie that everybody talked about that year, and that was Die Hard. Just an awesome action-packed movie. And Bruce Willis was still, I don't know if he was still doing moonlighting or just finished moonlighting. And he got $5 million for that. And they called him the $5 Million Man for that year. This is the collection. I haven't even watched these in years. I might watch it this Christmas. Because Die Hard, yeah, you can consider it a Christmas movie, along with Lethal Weapon. But yeah, Die Hard, 1988. And in 1989, another one of my comfort movies, my go-to movies, is actually Cyborg. Not a big fan of Jean-Claude Van Damme, but this movie is my favorite of his. Time Cop wasn't too bad. Neither was I can't remember. I can't even think of the name of it, so I won't even talk about it. This is just post-apocalyptic. I can't even think what he was called when And the fight scene at the end is pretty good with him. He's gone to save the girl that he took their family out into the countryside, and then were captured by Fender. That's his name, Fender. And the fight. My favorite fight is the inside that old structured building where he swings down, and just before he goes into the underground. Anyway, 1989, Cyborg. 1990, Arnold had lots of action movies out, 80s and 90s. Total Recall. This was on the big screen. This is awesome. Just all around it. Excellent movie. Oh yeah, Sharon Stone was in this. And Michael Ironside, too. Excellent movie. 1990. At that time was Die Hard 2, Dances with Wolves, RoboCop 2. And now we're up to 1991. And this is an awesome soundtrack, too. The Commitments. An Irish band, soul music, Irish band. The music, the soundtrack. And when he starts singing Mustang Sally, and it's got to be loud. You got to have it loud. Just his voice. I mean, he was 16 years old when he recorded. And they only brought him in just to sing along with the rest of them while they were screen testing them in the music and all that. But they ended up using him, and he was 16. But his voice was awesome. Mustang Sally is wicked. All the music in this movie is wicked. This is one of the best soundtracks. And Three Girls and all that. So that was 1991, 1992. Last of the Mohicans. Daniel Day-Lewis. And let me get her name right. Daniel Day-Lewis. Madeline Stowe. She's just gorgeous in this. The soundtrack to this is awesome too. My favorite scene is when Buddy's getting ready to slit her throat and he's running towards her and all that. It's just wicked. And the end fight scene at the end with Magua and his adopted father. And that's bringing it. We're almost done for part one here. So 1992, Last of the Mohicans. 1993. Is A Bronx Tale. This is my favorite. Robert De Niro's first directorial movie. Chaz Palminteri, I probably messed that up. He wrote the screenplay for this, and the story did it as a one-man based on his play. This is an awesome, excellent movie. And the little kid there, two fathers basically is what he had. Father that played it safe and straight. Gangster. Excellent movie. He should have been nominated and got an award for this. His part was excellent. So that brings us up halfway to my age. That's the end of part one for now. And I'll get part two going here in a little bit. So thanks for watching. Remember, be kind, rewind.